diving catch robs Pujols of extra bases, 2 down.
So 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, takes away probably 2 runs there defensively. That's 5 runs he's involved in. Matt Chapman.
Olsen skies one high and deep to right field toward the corner of Dell. Onto the track near the wall, leaps up and got it. Makes the catch for out number 3. Olsen. On he goes. Which is hit out towards center field. That's smoke. That is going to be into the bushes. A 2-run home run for McCutchen. And the Phillies take a 2-0 lead.
Here's another 3-2 going again as Soto hits one high in the air, right center field. Brinson near the wall, leaps, and he makes the catch! Lewis Brinson makes an unbelievable catch over the wall in center field.
All right, everybody, welcome in to this very latest edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show. I am your host, Kevin, and we got some baseball to talk about today. And to help us do that, we got our 2 of our regular guys here. We got Dan, who is the Belly Up Baseball Department head over there in Pennsylvania. How are you doing tonight, Dan?
I'm doing pretty good. I saw basically all of the state of Pennsylvania today. It felt like drove from Philadelphia back to Pittsburgh, and it all looks the same. So you can skip the middle, just go to either end, and that's all you need to see at Pennsylvania.
Okay, so there you go. And of course, joining us, we have Vince here, and Vince, of course, is the host of the Sports Stove podcast, which can be seen throughout the land and possibly overseas too, right? Isn't that, Vince?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely overseas and maybe up there on the space station as well. So, Vince, how are we doing tonight?
Hey, doing really good. Getting ready for another work week. There's no better way to kick that off than talking fantasy baseball.
Yeah, and that's what we're here to do. And so before we get into that, we need to talk about our sponsor, which is intheclutch.com. And we've been promoting this for a few weeks now. And so if you have not gotten over there to their website, they have tons of officially licensed sports apparel and a lot of other really interesting things. It's not just baseball. You know, they got the NBA finals going on, and they've got a lot of Boston and Golden State articles on there. So they got hockey. It's just out there. So if you're in any sport whatsoever, which of course you would be if you're watching the show right now, get over to intheclutch.com. Do that as soon as we get done with our show right here. And remember to put in Belly Up Fantasy in the code when you check out to get your 10% off. All right. So, of course, this week, baseball always gives us interesting topics to get into. And this week is Joe Maddon out in Anaheim. And Vince, do we need to go to the tape from last week's show to determine who exactly it was that brought this up first, if it was you or it was Nick?
So Nick said he brought up the fact. He said, they're on a losing skid. What should they do? Fire Joe Maddon? And I said, yes, they should fire Joe Maddon. So he mentioned his name first, and he can have the credit. I don't care.
Okay. I just want to make sure, we're accurate in all aspects of the show here. And so I didn't mention that Nick is involved in the upgrade of his home, and that is why he is not here. So it's good that you went ahead and gave him the credit so he doesn't have to, call us up or
Kevin
message us or anything. So
we don't want any fake news. He's out due to suspension, PED suspension, and he is out indefinitely. We'll see when we let him back in.
Okay, so stay tuned for that. And so Vince, since you are the person here that did mention about how Joe Maddon needed to go down, what do you think? This is a couple days since that's happened. Do you still think that was the right move? And what should the Angels do from here?
So, I don't think it was the wrong move. I cheer for the Brewers, who went on an 8-game skid. and finally
We're
finish
gonna
that
get
off
into that in a
tonight.
minute, yeah.
And I never once thought Craig Counsell should be fired. So I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know the locker room. I'm not sure how they were handling things. My thing with managers or coaches is always, how has the locker room responded to them? If they don't have their ear anymore, they've got to go no matter what. It's just not going to work. Whether it's their fault or not, it's just not going to work anymore. I don't know if that was the case in Los Angeles, but after seeing what Philadelphia did, going on a run after firing their manager, I'm surprised a lot of teams haven't fired their manager. And so I don't think it was a wrong move for the Angels. Only time will tell if it was the right move. I don't know that in the interim that they're going to do a lot better than they would have done with Joe Maddon still there. Joe Maddon's a very good baseball manager and has had a lot of success, and he'll get another job if he wants one. But it wasn't working in Los Angeles, and I felt like they needed to make a move. So I think, it's the right move. Going forward, the players got to buy in, and whoever's given the instruction now, they have to buy into it, and they need the veteran guys to really step up and take the lead on that. And they just got to get back to playing baseball. They've got the talent. There's no question about that. But for whatever reason, what they were doing wasn't working.
So, Dan, what was your reaction when you heard about this, that he's now on the street?
Well, it's two teams that have been tied at the hip for multiple years now. It seems like the Angels get classified as the American League version of the Phillies, in that they've got a lot of top tier talent, but have pretty poorly run organizations and can't get those star players into the playoffs. And I think it was a little different than what Joe Girardi was dealing with. Obviously, Joe Girardi had shortcomings in the roster with the bullpen and stars struggling. But Joe Maddon dealt with the worst stretch Mike Trout has ever had at the plate, probably since he picked up a bat when he was 1 or 2 years old. He's probably never swung and missed as much as he did in the 12, 13 game losing streak the Angels went on. So there's only so much Joe Maddon can control, especially when the best player in baseball is 0 of 26.
Yeah.
But like Vince said, if he doesn't have the guy's ears anymore, then it's a lost season. And they were never great under Maddon. Time will tell if that was really him or if it's the lack of support that the team has given to Mike Trout and now Shohei Ohtani. But again, there needed to be a change, and hey, they broke the losing streak, so I guess they kind of got what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, option B was what? Trade
All
Mike
right,
Trout?
so my reaction to all this is that you can't always blame everything on the manager, but there were even before this losing streak started, things started to come off the rails a little bit, and that happened in Texas right here when he walked Corey Seager with the bases loaded and proceeded to – they lost the game. And so that just goes to show some of the weird stuff that Joe Maddon was doing. And there comes a point, like you said, Vince, where players are just like, dude, what are you doing over here? You're not putting us in position to win. I suspect maybe that what was going on there. That's not the reason why Mike Trout went 0 for 26. But if you're in 0 for 26 and you're not listening to what the manager's telling you, then that's not good either. So it's hard. It's really hard to imagine, because we were talking about how the Angels were on their way to make the playoffs about a month ago. And now all of a sudden they went into a terrible streak. Managers out on the road. And so that just goes, baseball is a funny sport. 1 minute you're at the top, next minute you're at the bottom. But that's just the way it goes. Unlike Dan, the guy that took over in Philadelphia, I do know who Phil Nevin is. I watched him play for the Padres. He is a guy that was known for going the other way. And if he can impart any of that to the Angel hitters, maybe this will be a good thing for them.
Kevin, one of the things you said was, Joe Maddon may not have had anything to do with the slump that Trout went through. Baseball at that level is a very mental game. Last year we saw it with Tony La Russa and Yermin Mercedes. after that whole instance went on, Mercedes just went out. I mean, he was doing great, and then all of a sudden he was nothing. Not to say that's exactly what's happening, but I think it plays a role. When you don't trust your manager or when you don't like your manager, your mental, in most cases, your mental strength is different. Now they fire him, and there's just a renewal of the mind to some degree if they didn't like him. Again, this is all ifs because we don't know. But he comes out and hits 2 home runs in his first game back from injury, and Walsh went for the cycle. So I mean, something is better, whether it's relief that Madden's gone or just coincidence. Something's definitely better.
I agree with that, and that's one of the questions we were going to talk about today, because Mike Trout himself was injured during the losing streak, and he missed 3 games. And as you mentioned, Vince, because you own him, correct? Isn't that right, Vince?
Yes, and I got him in I think 2 fantasy leagues actually.
Okay, so you got him in 2 fantasy leagues. So you were suffering through the 0 for 26, just like he was. But yesterday he broke out, as you mentioned. And so he's back in the lineup, and that has to be good news for everybody. That because Walsh is a guy that had a good year last year, and if he can swing the bat, that really helps out the Angels situation. And so we have to wait and see, of course, what's going to happen here. And I asked the question last week, Vince, do you think that this will have any effect on the Angels' fantasy prospects, that there's a new manager on the team?
I mean, you'd hope that they get back to normal at the very least. The hitters especially. So in that sense, you'd like to think it gets better. The pitching hasn't been horrible. They haven't been great either. But the pitching's been okay as well. I think, if anything, anytime you change things up, and the players are for it, there's going to be, I think, something positive come out of it. And guys like Trout, Ohtani, Walsh, those guys have so much talent that eventually they're going to come out of it, whether Madden was the manager or not. You'd like to think they would have found themselves somewhere in there. But, I don't know. At the end of the day, it comes back to their mental capacity, their mental strength, and whether or not they can get their mind focused where it needs to be and fix any issues they had with form and those kinds of things, and just get back to natural, get back to stop thinking and hit the ball. For guys at that level, it doesn't work for guys like me, but guys at that level, it's like most of the time their struggles come when they're thinking too much. They sometimes a change helps them get back on track. And I hope it does. As a fantasy baseball owner I've got Walsh, I've got Trout. So yeah, I'm hoping things get back on track.
So Dan, do you own any Angels in your fantasy universe?
I don't own any Angels, and other than Trout, Ohtani, and Taylor Ward after his amazing start, I don't really want to own any. Anthony Rendon is a guy that I've tried to stay away from the past couple of years. He just hasn't played well for the Angels, and no one else is too enticing. Brandon Marsh, maybe, but he's a fringe guy at best when he's playing well, and no one else really makes an impact for fantasy purposes. I get Raisel Iglesias is a good closer, but you saw him give up the grand slam to Bryce Harper. That's a spot where Joe Madden probably should have walked Bryce Harper with the bases loaded, decided not to, and Bryce Harper went home run.
Well, that just goes to show sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, and it's wrong all the way around. So I have Ohtani, of course, on my fantasy team. So anything that can help him out, I highly support. Of course, he came out and he pitched extremely well the other night and hit a home run. So I highly support what Ohtani can do going up into the future. All right, so we wanted to get into some players that are battling injuries right now. And so one of the players, as everybody knows, the Dodgers are my team. They just got swept by the Giants, so I'm not going to bring them up a whole lot today. But Walker Buehler wound up on the injured list, and he's out for 4 to 6 weeks.
I saw
So
6 to 8 weeks.
8 weeks, okay,
Yeah.
could be 8 weeks. And so most of us don't have any place to put any more injured players
Right.
because all of our injury, lists are already full. So a lot of us have to make a decision now. What do we do? Someone either leave them on your lineup, on your bench, or you make a move. And so at this point, Vince, if you've got any more players that are going on the injured list, how do you prioritize who you're going to keep on your team?
Yeah, it all comes down to who it is, right? Players that matters. I'm pulling up one of my leagues right now, and I've got 3 injured list spots in my league, and I
That's
have
standard.
6 guys that are on the injured list. So I've got 3 guys that I'm holding on to. Wander Franco, of course, I'm not going to cut him.
Okay, I've got him on the injured list in another league as well.
Eloy Jimenez, who should be back pretty soon for the White Sox. Tyler Ward in Anaheim on there as well. But I've also got Chris Bryant, Tyler Stevenson, and Brandon Woodruff. So I could probably drop Stevenson and make room, but I don't want to because there's not a ton of catchers available in that league.
Well, there's a guy I'm going to bring up later, Vince, that might solve your problem.
Yeah, well, hopefully I've already picked him up, but we'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
Yeah, so those guys are guys I don't want to cut. They're guys I'm not willing to let go of. Pretty much, if they're owned in 97% or more of leagues, I'm not dropping them. I'm going to hold on to them and just grit and bear basically, and make the most out of it. I've come to spots it was in that league, I believe, that I had to get rid of somebody. I don't remember who it was now. Wong, Colton Wong went on the injured list this week. So I just cut him. I wasn't going to hold on to him. He's not important enough. He's got good steals this year, but he's not good enough for me to waste the spot on. And so I cut him. So it's all dependent on the player, how important they are. Every now and then I'll try to trade one. If I feel like they're top notch guys, I got Fernando Tatis in a league. I've had people offer me stuff for him, but I've not been willing to let them go for what they were offering. So it depends on the player. If I can get something in return that's going to help me, I'll consider trading. Otherwise, I'm going to hold on to the good ones and just wait it out. It's a long season, so I can hold on for a little bit, and as long as they're going to be coming back, within a reasonable amount of time.
So Dan, we all know we have injured players on our team. Do you have more injured players than you have spots to put?
Not really. I'm lucky enough in the Belly Up League that I only have Fernando Tatis on the injured list right now. So I've got 2 open injured list spots, and that's a welcome sign. I had Tyler O'Neill on it recently. So he just came back. He's been hitting okay in the couple games he's been in. But in another league, I just had Nathan Eovaldi going to the injured list. So to make room, I was stashing Gene Segura. He's out 10 to 12 weeks, but I had the spot. So I was fine having him there, taking up a spot. Well, I didn't need it, but now that I need it, Gene Segura, probably an easy drop with him being out for at least 3 more months. So, but for right now, knock on wood, I've got a pretty straightforward injured list in my fantasy leagues, and I just know that someone big is going to go down this week, and I'll be eating my words when we're talking next week.
So in the Belly Up League, I'm pretty lucky, but this other league that I'm in, there are injured players all over the place. And one of the players that I have that got injured this week was Pablo Lopez, pitcher for the Miami Marlins. He was hit by a comebacker, and he's got a right wrist contusion. And so we have to see what happens with him. And if he's too good a pitcher right now, he's got a 2.30 ERA, so there's no chance that guy's going to get dropped. So, and another player that fortunately is back in the lineup, Starling Marte. We talked about him before the draft. I drafted him, and he was out, but he's back in the lineup today, so we'll see how that works out. And Jacob deGrom. In the other league that I am, and we talked about this, Nick and I, there was a guy in my league that for some unknown reason dropped Jacob deGrom. Don't know why. Didn't care why. And I had the number one waiver priority, so I went and got him. And I was reading today that he's doing his third bullpen session this week. And so he's progressing. And so if you've got Jacob deGrom, that's positive news. You don't know when he's going to get seen, but don't drop Jacob deGrom. All right.
Well,
all you fantasy guys out there, don't drop Jacob deGrom. Okay, that's my advice.
Yeah, I mean, go for it. I don't care if you drop him. Just let me know if you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, though. We're talking about waiver wire stuff, and we'll get the ads and drops later. But you have to be so vigilant, checking who's available, because guys, especially right now, when you have this many guys injured, they're going to drop guys that you're going to look at and go, wait a second, what? Why are they sitting there? Now, Max Muncy has not had a great year this year. Somebody dropped him in our league the other day. I picked him up.
I saw that.
He's on my team.
Okay.
So I'm going to take guys like that, even if they're injured, and even if they're having a bad year to start off the season. I'm going to go out and grab guys that I can. I'm trying to think. I had one other guy, but I don't remember who it was now that I picked up. I think it was in a different league, but because he was hurt, he got dropped. Because like people didn't want to hold him on their injured list, and I was like, they're owned in 96% of leagues. Why would you drop them? And so went out and got them, and so far so good.
So there you go. So, when it comes to fantasy, that's any sport, but especially baseball, where you can make daily moves, and you need to keep up on what's going on in your leagues, who's available, and who gets dropped, and all that stuff. So that's one of the things I like about baseball fantasy is, football, you make 1-2 moves, and then you're done for the week. But baseball, can't do that. So I was very pleased about Jacob deGrom. And another player that I saw, Vince, that you had on your injured list was Steven Strasburg.
Yeah.
And he made his comeback, what was that, Thursday, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think so.
And it didn't go especially well. So I'm going to ask you, Vince, what did you think about his start the other day? And why would the manager leave him in there so he could get pounded for 7 runs?
That's a good question. The last one you asked there. So with Strasburg, looking at fantasy stuff, I picked him up a couple weeks ago when I saw that he was making some runs. I'm looking to see right now. I picked him up on April 17th and saw that he was getting close to returning. So went ahead and grabbed him, stashed him on my IL, and brought him in. I didn't expect good things out of his first start.
Did you start him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was hoping for
probably
positive
left him on my
points.
bench for one start.
Yeah, I was hoping for positive points, but I wasn't expecting anything great. Negative, I think it was -8 in our league that he got. Not spectacular, but but I'm patient with guys, very patient with guys. And, especially pitchers, they're going to have a bad night. And you're right, the manager left him in way too long. Could have helped him out a little bit there. But, I mean, the Washington Nationals aren't going to the World Series. So if you want to start, working his arm, up to you, I guess.
Yeah, the only place they're going is AAA. So, all right, Dan. So, as our NL East representative, what do you make of Steven Strasburg and the manager leaving him as long as he did?
Well, like Vince said, the Nationals aren't doing anything no season and guard the playoffs. So, you want to innings. And that's what he did. He didn't pitch entirely with really good restart. That's to be but you just got to get him his innings, get him back low, and they've got 4 more years left on his extension. So you got to get him to his back pitch again if he on the next competitive Nationals team, if that's what the Nationals want.
Well, it seems to me that if I've got him for 4 more years, I'm not going to press him and have him pitch, give up that many runs his first game. But that's just me. All right. So another pitcher that made his return yesterday was Clayton Kershaw. of the Dodgers. He pitched a little bit better than Steven Strasburg did, but he was still the losing pitcher. And so we've seen how the Mets have made their, they've maintained their, for the most part, being in first place, even though they don't have their two top pitchers. Now the Dodgers have lost, as I mentioned, Walker Buehler for 8 weeks, as you pointed out, Vince. So Clayton Kershaw, what are they going to do with him? And because they can't press him, obviously, because he's already been injured. So if you're the owner of Clayton Kershaw, what do you think? Do you like his prospects going down through the next 3 months? Dan, do you think that would be something that you could rely on?
Well, Clayton Kershaw has not been a beacon of reliability the past couple of years.
No, he has not.
As he's gotten older, he's dealt with back injuries, he's dealt with shoulder and elbow injuries. But if you got the spot on your roster, he's pitched pretty well when he has been healthy. It's just he hasn't been healthy all that much. So if you're willing to take the injuries and the poor starts every once in a while, Clayton Kershaw can give you really quality starts. We've seen that this year. He was perfect through 7 innings in a game against the Twins before he was taken out. So I'm not dumping him to the curb because you know what he can do and he can give you really good starts. But the expectations need to be tempered a little bit, knowing that the injury risk is there with Clayton Kershaw.
So, Vince, if you have Clayton Kershaw, let's say that he does come out and he does pitch well. Are you looking to double down and just ride him out through the season, or is he someone that you might look to trade?
He's probably somebody I would look to trade just with his injury, his history, and his age. I wasn't high on him coming into the season, and when he has played a whole lot better than I thought he was going to.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I would be looking to get something for him, whether it be another pitcher that's going to be safer, or if I need bats. It depends on the league I'm in, of course, as well. But if I've got a good little staff on my fantasy team, he's a nice piece to have. So I would definitely not drop him, but.
You're not dropping Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, if I had a Dodger fan in my league, I would consider making a move, see what I could get for him. I always initially tried to sell low or sell high, I guess, sell high, and then if someone will interact with me, we'll end up making something work. But I would swing for the fences if I'm going to try to trade him. I would try to get somebody big in return.
But I would think that you'd hold on to him before you try to trade him to see if he does pitch well, and then make the
move. That's a cat and mouse game, right? I mean, if you hold on to him and he doesn't do well, then you can't trade him anymore.
Right.
So you got to trade him while he's hot, if you're going to trade him.
If you're going to trade him. So, all right. So Dan, we talked about how you're the NL East guy here, and the NL East has some interesting news going on over there. And, of course, we got to talk about the defending champion Atlanta Braves, who today won their 11th straight game. And we talked about how if the Braves can get back into this thing, we didn't think they'd do it in, 15 games. But here they are. They're 5 games back. And so if you're the New York Mets, who they're playing right now against the Angels, and you're looking in the rearview mirror and you're seeing the oncoming train that is the Braves, are you a little concerned right now?
Well, yeah, there's obvious concern when you've got a team like the Braves who, like you said, won the World Series last year. They're playing at the top of their game. But then you look at their schedule, and their 11 games have been against the Diamondbacks, the Rockies,
and at home nowhere,
the Athletics, and the Pirates.
Right.
So they haven't exactly beaten a murderer's row of MLB teams in the month of June. And it doesn't get much harder. They have 3 in Washington starting tomorrow, and then they have 3 at Wrigley over the weekend before they finally get the Giants and the Dodgers coming. But that's the Truist Park. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Braves ran this to 15. And yeah, you never want to have a team winning 15 games in a row when they're trying to chase you down. But I think if you're the Mets, you're waiting to see how the Braves do against the Giants and the Dodgers, and then to a lesser extent against the Phillies at the end of the month.
So Dan brings up an area, about the schedule, and I saw that they were playing a home, heavy schedule, and they're getting ready to go out, but that's not a deadly road trip. So Vince, the Braves, are they going to continue? And are there any players on their team that you're looking at that you might say, wow, I need to go and get one or two of them?
Yeah. So first of all, the whole division is crazy right now, right? I mean,
it is.
Phillies are on a 9-game win streak. Miami's 5-game win streak. Nationals were on a 2-game win streak. And the Mets are the only team not on a win streak right now in the NL East. But yes, the Braves they're for real. We knew that going into the season that they are legit. But they had a really rough start again this year. They are coming, flying back in. There's a guy that I just picked up. I don't think I have him on my list today to talk about. Michael Harris II, playing outfield, prospect that's come up, and rookie. He's batting 9th, but he's batting .333 on the season. And so he's got some positive things happening for him right now. And he's a guy that I picked up because I needed an outfielder, and he's got a few stats that I can kind of live with as well. So, that's what you're looking at, the younger guys, the guys that are coming up. Because most of your quality Braves fantasy players are already on rosters.
Well, there's one guy that I'm going to bring up right off the bat, and that is a pitcher. He's a rookie, and his name is Spencer Strider. And he's only owned in 18% of leagues. I've got him in another league, and he went out and let's see here. He has a 2.35 ERA, and he's pitched extremely well and got some major points for me in this other league that I'm in. And so he is a player, as Dan mentioned, they're getting ready to play on the road this week, so he'll pitch on the road, but it's against the Cubs, I would believe, coming up this weekend. So that is a positive start to me. So if you're in a league that's got Spencer Strider sitting out there, go and get him. Another guy that I talked about that needed to go away was Adam Duvall, and he's starting to pick things up just a little bit. So he's another guy that might be out there that you might want to look at. And so, Dan, your Phillies, they lost today. And that was their first loss after 8 games that they had won. And so, and I last week about how do we need to go get any fantasy players for Philadelphia? And it seems like their offense has turned things around. What about their pitchers? Are their pitchers any better? Any guys over there that we need to look at?
Well, the guys that you want are obviously Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, but you're not going to find them on any waiver wires. At least as long as you're playing with sane people in your league. The one pitcher that probably could be on more teams is Seranthony Dominguez. He's only owned in 2.2% of fantasy leagues on ESPN, and he's been great this year. He was out for a while after Tommy John surgery. Made his debut. Came back at the end of last year. Excuse me, and he's pitched to a 1.61 ERA this year. He's been pitching in the 8th in front of Corey Knebel, but Knebel has been pretty average and should probably be on your waiver wire. So if
he's on our
if they do make a move,
put that in there. So
yes,
so
he
you're
is,
right about
which
that.
is where he belongs.
Correct.
I cut him in the other league I was in because I didn't need him frustrating me on real baseball and fantasy baseball. But if the Phillies do make a move to Seranthony Dominguez as the closer and they keep hitting the way they do, he's a guy that could rack up saves at a pretty high rate. And he's a guy that has had success before and is seemingly getting it again.
All right. So I'm sorry to have to bring this up, Vince, but the Brewers, your Brewers,
Yeah, they won
They
today.
won today.
Thanks for bringing
They
that
won
up,
today.
Kevin.
okay, they won today. So that breaks up their 8-game losing streak, and that puts the St. Louis Cardinals right back in things.
Yeah.
And so, how do you? What was the major reason for this 8-game losing streak? Was it pitching, hitting, both? What's the reason why they had this huge slide all of a sudden?
Yeah, injuries played a big role in it. That's an excuse, of course. Hitting probably is the biggest issue in most cases, but the pitching with the injuries they've had, they're down 2 starters right now.
That's right. Freddie Peralta is one I have. I had to put him on the IL. So.
Yeah, and Woodruff is the other one, and so
That's right.
we're battling through. It's they've struggled in like those middle innings, giving up runs either in the last couple innings of the starting pitcher or when you first get into that middle relief kind of thing. So that's been an issue too. But really the biggest issue was just injuries, offensive and pitching injuries that they had. But Craig Counsell has tied Phil Garner for the most wins as a manager in Brewers history with the win today.
Oh, that's an interesting fact there. Yeah.
Yeah. So they snapped the losing streak, and now they're headed to the World Series. So everything's good in Milwaukee today.
Everything's good in Milwaukee. So you heard it here first. All right. So, we're mentioning about how players get dropped in this other league that I'm in. Christian Yelich got dropped.
What?
He did. I didn't do it. Okay, but I saw he got dropped, and I picked him up, and then he's had a couple of really good games over the weekend. So
I want to be in that league. Those are some morons.
I'm serious.
Yeah, can I get an invite to that league?
Yay me. Okay. But sometimes you're in a league where you're happy they're active.
Yeah.
In the league, first of all.
Yeah.
So, when you're playing fantasy baseball, that is a problem that you have in leagues throughout the land is people give up and they don't play and it's like 3 guys that are doing everything. But hopefully, once again, if you're in a fantasy league and you own Christian Yelich, do not drop him. Okay, that's another piece of advice for you fantasy guys out there. All right, so we're going to switch this over and ask a serious question right now, because obviously somebody ran out of patience with Christian Yelich and dropped him. So my question to you, Vince. Are there any players either on your team or that you're watching that you would like to be doing well that you're just about out of patience with, and what do you do with them?
So I'm a very, very patient fantasy baseball owner. I give them a long chance I just dropped Adley Rutschman in my other league. I got rid of him in one league already, but just got rid of him in the other league too, because I've just been incredibly patient with him. Ketel Marte is a guy that I'm not going to get rid of, but he's been very frustrating this year. His numbers have not been up to where they've been in the past. But honestly, I'm a bad guy to ask about patience because when it comes to fantasy baseball, I'm very, very patient with guys that I draft. I'm very patient with. If I've picked them up on waiver claims and stuff, I'm less patient with those guys. But the guys that I draft, I hold on to for a very long time. And so I'm probably not the best one. For what it's worth, I'm a pastor. I preached on patience today in the morning sermon.
Okay.
So I have to be patient. I just preached on it. So no, there's not really anybody that I've lost patience with other than Rutschman that I don't know. I mean, I stuck with him for a long time to get rid of him now. Finally, I feel like at least. So, no, overall patience is a virtue for me. I'm holding on to guys, letting things happen. The guys like Yelich. I'm not going to drop Yelich, but
no.
Trout went through his.
Might need psychological help if you're dropping Christian Yelich.
Yeah, I did throw Trout in a number of trade offers in one league this week. But the guys that I was asking for in return were, top 10 guys, whatever it may be. So I lost patience in the sense that I was willing to let them go, but I was still going to make sure I got equal or more value back in return. So I guess that's a little bit of losing patience.
All right, Dan. So we know what the sermon was from Vince, and he's talking about how we need to be patient here. Do you echo that? Do you go with patience? And if not, are there any players that you are just about up to here on that you want to move on from?
Well, Eric Hosmer was a casualty of me losing patience. He's been really bad the past 3 or 4 weeks, and I had just about enough of him. 2 guys that I was patient with that paid off in the past couple weeks, though, are one of them's Jose Barrios. He's had his 2 best starts of the year, his last 2 starts, 7 innings and 8 innings apiece, 18 Ks between them, only 3 earned runs. So that's a guy that finally rewarded guys that picked him relatively high in the draft after a disappointing season. And then Marcus Semien, he's been probably the most talked about player on this show. And he went off on Tuesday. In 2 games. He went 7 for 8 with 3 home runs and got a total of 26 fantasy points in our league. I'm sure Vince loved seeing that, finally having Marcus Semien do something good. But it's 2 guys that I was lucky enough to be patient with. I wasn't going to drop either one, but Marcus Semien had really tested my patience. So I'm glad I was able to follow Vince's sermon today or this week and make sure I was patient with 2 big name guys.
Well, Vince, I probably could have used that sermon earlier this week because a player that I drafted, and he's a Dodger, and that's Justin Turner. And I eventually ran out of patience with him, and I dropped him in our league. And so if he's a guy that you want to go ahead and go get, you feel free to do so. But before you do that, just know he had 1 run scored, no RBIs this past week, and he's hitting just 212. And it just hasn't gotten it started. There's been a couple games where he has a couple hits. You're like, okay, he's coming out of it. Then he goes right back into his season-long slump. And so I lost patience with Justin Turner, and I hate to do that because the third base, as we talked about way, way, way back ago, is a thin position. But still, I ran out of patience. So I could have used that sermon probably. And another guy that on the Dodgers, I don't have him, and that's Craig Kimbrell, the Dodgers supposed closer. All right. But anytime you have a closer that has a 4.42 ERA, that is incredibly bad. And so and I believe he's on our waiver wire. I could be wrong about that, but he needs to be off the team. Like I said, any closers at 4.42, got to go.
Kevin, I can tell you're not patient because you lead our league in acquisitions. You have 61 acquisitions to date. Nathan Nguyen is right behind you. He has 57 acquisitions to date. And then I'm the next one, but I'm at 48. I haven't even hit 50 yet. So you and Nathan are rolling through the acquisitions.
That's been my philosophy in fantasy baseball pretty much from the beginning, that at the bottom of the roster, these are, especially in our league when it's a 10-man league.
Yeah.
If you're in a 12, 14, 16, that does not work. You cannot make probably 60, transactions through a whole season, let alone for the first 2.5 months, whatever it's been. But if you're in a 10-man league and because there's not many games that are going on the schedule tomorrow, and there are a lot of guys that aren't playing, and those guys are just as good as anyone else that is playing. So I'll make the move and go ahead and pick them up and get positive bats in my lineup. So that's the way I've always felt about it. But that's at the bottom of my roster. Justin Turner is a guy that I drafted, not high, but high enough that you want to hold on to him. But it was okay. You got to go. All right, so let's switch this over to our subject of pickups. And Vince, you mentioned about catchers, and I've got one for you. I'm
All right, who
naming
you got?
it right now. That's MJ Melendez of the Kansas City Royals.
Okay.
And he is listed as a catcher, but since Salvador Perez is back, he's been back for a while now, but they've got MJ Melendez in the lineup every single day. They play him in the outfield. They're playing him as a designated hitter. And he's a guy that's – I always like a guy that as I only want to have one catcher on my roster because, let's face it, they stink, right? So if in our league, I've got him. So don't be going to the waiver wire to see if you can pick him up. But one of these other leagues that you're in, go and check him out because he's only owned in 15% of leagues. All right. And he's hitting 267. He's got 6 homers. He's got 16 RBIs. And coming in today, he had 4 straight hit in 4 straight games, but he went 0 for 4 today. But the key to me is he's in the lineup, like I said, every single day. So you put him in your catcher and leave him there, and then you can rotate your guys around him. So those that are out there that want that join us up to see, hey, you know, what do I do with my fantasy roster? Go get MJ Melendez and get him on your team. Unless you're one of those guys that has a catcher that's solid. But how many of those are there? 4?
Maybe
5, maybe.
yeah.
So other than those 4 or 5 guys, go get MJ Melendez and do it today. All right. So Vince, who do you have as being priority pickups?
All right. So let me go with catcher first. I am doing the big swings at catchers right now. I'm trying to kind of play around and find the diamond in the rough. So I got 2 guys for you. Gabriel Moreno just got called up in Toronto. He's top prospect in Major League Baseball. He's got a couple starts under his belt since he's been called up already. And so I went ahead and added him in one league just to give it a try because if he takes off, then I've got him, kind of a deal. The other one's Christian Betancourt. He's in Oakland. He actually starts at first base in Oakland, but he has eligibility at catcher as well. And he's a guy that probably won't be on my roster for super long, but right now he's doing decent. And so I've got him in there. Same situation as Mendez. He's playing every day. He's playing at a different position than catcher, but he's eligible at catcher too. So I'm taking a swing at him also and kind of letting him see how he does here for a little while. And maybe I hit on him. If I do, I look like a really smart guy. And if I don't, I'm wrong. And then I got 2 other multi-position guys. Santiago Espinal, he's in Toronto as well, third base, second base. He's on.
That's a guy that's been on the waiver wire for months.
Yeah.
And I've been writing about him. We've been talking about him on this show. I don't understand what is the pushback of adding him. He has been hitting since the season started. So I'm right on the train with you, Vince. Go and get Santiago Espinal today. Do it.
And the other guy is Brandon Rogers in Colorado, second base shortstop.
Hey.
He's owning about, I think, 56% of leagues right now. But he's been around. He's another guy that kind of floats there. He's on a team, then he's off a team kind of situation. And he's had pretty decent stats so far this year. And I'm not a huge Colorado guy.
They're heading back home. So you want Colorado hitters at home. So that's a good 100%. Selection right there.
There you go. Those are my guys.
All right. So, Dan, who are your priority pickups this week?
Well, I got a couple guys. They're all infielders. One of them, a guy that a lot of us have probably forgotten about, but the guy that's hitting really well right now is Joey Votto. You don't really want Reds on your team.
I was going to mention him in our whole session. So go ahead.
He's hitting 360 over the last week. He was on a pretty long hitting streak that got snapped today, but he still managed to get positive points in our league. So he's a guy that's a proven contributor. He's done it his whole career. Last year, you saw he had an unbelievable month of July, I believe it was. And so he's not likely, but he's prone to do it again. He's a guy that could get hot at any time, and he's sitting on the waiver wire right now. He's owned in 75% of leagues, so he's not extremely available. But if he's available in your league, he's a guy that could give you some cheap power, at least for a couple weeks, especially if he gets hot. And another guy, I'm going to sound a little bit like a homer, but it's Bryson Stott. He's been really good since he came back up.
Go ahead.
He's been great since he came back up from AAA. He's got hits in 8 of his 11 games. He's got 4 home runs, all in the month of June. And he's going to be hitting towards the bottom of the lineup, but with Gene Segura out, Didi Gregorius has been pretty average and dealing with injuries of his own. Johan Camargo's out. So he's going to be playing every day. And right now he's hot in a lineup full of guys that are hitting well. So he's going to have a lot of opportunities to drive in runs and score runs if he's on base when the top of the lineup comes around. And he's a top prospect, and this is what was expected of him. His hit tool is his best tool. So if he can raise the batting average and keep the batting average high, he's a guy that can score a lot of runs.
Yeah, I added him, Dan, in one of my leagues, and I've dropped Alec Baum actually in one league, picked up Stott, and he's been solid for me.
All right, so unfortunately, another player that I was going to talk about was Garrett Cooper. This is a guy that's been hitting the ball all over the place, and unfortunately, he just went on the COVID list. But he's a guy that you need to keep an eye on, and because he's only owned in 18% of leagues. But like I said, this guy has been hitting the ball all over the place. And he's up to a .315 batting average. And he had 2 or more hits in 3 straight games earlier. And so this is a guy that's, like I said, if you've got an opening and you're out there in one of these fortunate guys that has an opening in their league, in their IL spots, pick him up, go get him, stash him, and then go ahead and get somebody else after that. Maybe if you do that, you can go out and get Andre Jimenez from the Cleveland Guardians. I said Guardians, all right. And he's a guy that's owning 36% of leagues, but he is a guy that has double position eligibility, and he's hitting .303 on the season. He's got 7 home runs, and so that will work as a middle infielder. So if you've got middle infielder issues, go ahead and pick him up. All right, so guys that we need to drop. And we talked about guys with a lot of patience in, but these are guys that we need to drop. No patience, no nothing. So any players, Vince, that you're just saying, no, you've got to go?
Yeah, Dan already mentioned Eric Hosmer. He's a guy on my drop list for this week. Brandon Nimmo in New York, another guy that had some positive things happen for him earlier in the year. Right now, it's just not cutting it, not worth holding up a spot in your roster. And the other guy is Chicago, and is it Morel, Christopher Morel or Morrill? I'm not sure how you say his last name, but outfielder. A lot of people kind of jumped on him, but his stats don't back that up, especially right now. So those are the 3 guys that I've got. Hosmer's a guy that a lot of people avoided early in the season, and then he started having some good numbers. So everybody's like, "Oh, we got to get Hosmer," and then he went back to what we expected. So he's not worth having on your roster right now.
All right, Dan, who are you dropping?
Well, like Vince said, I'll play off Vince because he played off me with Eric Hosmer. Alec Boehm, he's not giving you enough average to justify his complete lack of power. And it hurts the Phillies, too. He really shouldn't be. You almost don't want him in the lineup because when he's not hitting near 300, he almost gives you nothing else on the field. He's not a good defender. He doesn't hit home runs, and he doesn't steal bases. So Alec Boehm is the first guy. Another guy that I've never really liked as a player in general, and fantasy is on the fence. But Javier Baez, he's a guy that, especially if your league punishes strikeouts,
which ours does.
He can be backbreaking. And I said it when he got traded to the Mets last year. I can't wait for him to go 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts and a throwing error for the Mets in a big game. I don't think one of those came around, but he's a guy that when you need him most, he can hit a home run, but he's even more likely to whiff on 3 straight pitches out of the zone. So he's a guy that I've always avoided in fantasy, and he's hitting 200 this year. And he's not a guy that I want on my fantasy teams, so I'm dropping him.
Okay. So a player that you've mentioned before, Dan, is Yoan Moncada. He's owned in 52% of leagues, which mystifies me greatly. This past week, he's 2 for 17. 2 for 17. That's 2 more hits than I have sitting on my couch. Okay. So he's got to go. And one of the things that I want to get this in, because I know we're coming to the end, and that is the White Sox manager, right? Getting booed, they're over there, Tony La Russa. They need to fire La Russa. I don't know if you saw that. And because he walked a guy with 2 strikes on him, and then Max Muncy, you talked about him a minute ago, to Vince, steps to the plate, hits a home run, a 3-run blast. And so, and you mentioned him last week too, Vince, that he's on the hot seat, which now is incredibly hot. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I mean, why not just pitch out of the zone? You had Trey Turner at a 1-2 count. Like, why not just pitch balls? Why not just throw him low or something and see if he swings on one, and you might get him swinging? Why intentionally walk him? Just doesn't make any sense to me at a 1-2 count. I don't get it whatsoever. It seems like some of these older guys are trying to just overcoach some of these games. Just common sense should play a little bit of a factor in this. And I don't know if he's got to the mindset where now that he knows everybody hates him, he's like, well, screw all you guys. I'm just going to do whatever I want. I don't know. But it's time for him to go. And Dan's had some great points on La Russa. Graham Wallace talked about it on my show too. It's time for him to go.
And it seems like there are a lot of White Sox players, Nan, who are not playing up to par this year.
Right.
And so if you own some of these guys on your fantasy team, maybe you want to see La Russa, get the heave-ho. Maybe not happen because he's a Hall of Fame guy, but I just don't. That's even more mystifying, walking a guy at 1 and 2, and then so the next guy can come up and hit a 3-run homer. So that pretty much brings us to the end of our show here. And so we know you got a lot of things in the hopper, Dan. So tell us what you've got going on out there.
Yeah, well, you can find me on Twitter at DanDemico14. As always, I didn't tweet about the Phillies today because I didn't want to, because it was sad. They gave away a lot of runs. They gave away a lot of outs everywhere, and didn't hit the ball well. So I skipped Twitter for the day, as I believe most of Phillies Twitter did.
You might want to give them just a little bit of a break, Dan. Just a little bit.
Yeah, they get a pass for today, but Ranger Suarez had 40 pitches after the first inning. That was not a fun game to watch today. But it has been a much happier. My Twitter has been a much happier place over the past week than normal. This is what we thought the Phillies were going to be.
Fun over there in your Twitter feed. So Vince, we know you've got lots and lots of stuff going on. So what do you got in the hopper?
Yeah, I know we're short on time. So at Sports Stove on Twitter and Instagram, the Sports Stove podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts, are coming out 3 times a week. The audio is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We go live Sunday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night for those as well. But tune in. We got a lot of great stuff going on right now.
Yep. As always, you can find me at Kevin62, WILSEA. Get over to the fantasy of Belly Up side of the website. There's an article that will be coming out probably tomorrow. So take a look at that, and take a look at all of the stuff that Belly Up's got going on right now. There's a lot, and it's all great stuff. So we are happy you guys tuned in today. Everybody out there, have yourself a very, very good week, and we'll see you next time.